morning, I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers.
Right now on Morning News Now, ballot box battle. It is a cornerstone of the agenda he ran on. Now President Biden is turning up the heat in the battle over voting rights. He's heading to Georgia today with Vice President Harris to make an urgent appeal to pass federal legislation that has been stalled for months. Battle now brewing on Capitol Hill over a pair of bills aimed at bolstering mail-in voting infrastructure. Will the country see comprehensive change at the ballot box as the curtain opens on 2022? Cold snap. Millions of Americans from Minnesota to Massachusetts waking up this morning to positively frigid temperatures. The teeth-chattering wind chill alerts that could have some in the Northeast and Midwest dealing with temperatures that feel like 45 degrees below zero. New York and Boston set to see their coldest temperatures in 3 years. We've got our meteorologist Bill Cairns on standby with more on how long this chill could last. Also this morning, safety first. That deadly high-rise apartment fire in the Bronx over the weekend said to be caused by a malfunctioning space heater. Now, we're taking a closer look at how you can safely operate the appliances that keep you warm without putting yourself and your neighbors at risk. Plus, Bulldogs bite back, a championship matchup more than 40 years in the making, punctuated by an earth-shattering play. It not only sealed the deal for Georgia's Bulldogs, it broke the internet in the process. The freshmen who all but made Peach State history against Georgia's Crimson Tide rival, ending a decades-long championship drought. Lots of football coverage for you this morning.
Yes, woo, can't wait.
I'm just excited. We are going to begin this morning with the White House's renewed push for federal voting rights legislation.
Yeah, today President Joe Biden will speak in Atlanta about the issue, which has become a rallying cry for Democrats. 2 voting rights bills have passed the House, but stalled in the Senate, and the Biden administration is hoping to break that logjam. NBC News correspondent Blaine Alexander joins us now from Atlanta with a look at what we can expect to hear from the president today. Hi, Blaine. Good morning.
Well, Savannah and Joe, good morning to you both. You know, in many ways, Georgia really is the perfect backdrop for this voting rights push. Of course, Atlanta is the cradle of the civil rights movement. One of those 2 bills is named for John Lewis, the longtime congressman from this area. But also the president today is returning to the very state that gave his party the majority in the Senate. And this time he's facing some criticism from some in his own party. This morning, President Biden is taking his voting rights push, a central piece of his agenda, to Georgia, making an urgent appeal to protect the rights he says are under attack, vowing, "I will not yield, I will not flinch in protecting voting rights," according to an excerpt obtained by NBC News.
In state after state, new laws are being written, not to protect the vote, but to deny it.
On the line, a pair of federal voting bills that Democrats say would protect access to the ballot, providing universal access to mail-in voting, making Election Day a federal holiday, and requiring federal approval for election changes made at the state and local level. Georgia is ground zero for the fight over voting rights.
They attacked and cheated on our elections.
Repeatedly under attack by former President Trump, who has falsely claimed the election was stolen, focusing on mail-in ballots after Biden's victory in the once reliably red state. Soon after, the Republican-led state legislature passed a law limiting absentee voting, saying that the law made voting more secure, but Democrats slammed it as voter suppression, while similar laws passed in at least 19 other states. Now in Washington, efforts to secure federal voting rights are hitting a wall. Democrats are considering changing a Senate rule known as the filibuster so they could pass laws without Republicans, who are unanimously opposed.
Democrats are trying to use their fake hysteria to justify breaking Senate rules.
But in Georgia, patience is thin among the very organizers who helped the president win.
Did you feel that this was an empty gesture?
We feel like, the president and those that are accompanying the president are coming down here for a photo op.
And guys, in his speech today, the president is expected to say that he supports changing that filibuster rule. Meanwhile, the Senate's top Democrat, Chuck Schumer, has promised a vote on that rule change by next Monday, Martin Luther King Day. Guys, back to you.
All right, Blaine Alexander, thank you so much. We'll be watching for that speech later. But also, welcome back from maternity leave. We're so happy to see you and have some time with you away from your beautiful baby girl, Sage. Welcome back.
Thank you so much, guys. I'm so glad to be back with you guys. I appreciate that.
We're glad to have you back with us. All right. Thank you, Blaine. This morning, the U.S. is breaking yet another pandemic record. More than 1.3 million Americans tested positive for COVID in just the past day. That is the highest daily case total since the pandemic began. Now, as cases surge, vaccine makers say they're preparing for a fourth booster shot aimed at battling the Omicron variant. NBC News national correspondent Miguel Almaguer has the latest on the pandemic this morning.
Savannah and Joe, good morning. The U.S. has now topped a new record, more than 1.4 million infections in a single day. It comes as some Americans will soon qualify for a fourth shot of a vaccine.
Doctors fear a rise in fatalities similar to last year may soon be coming. Now officials in Sonoma County, California, are advising residents to stay home for the next 30 days, moving quickly to ban large gatherings here in wine country that would impact weddings and conferences with limited exceptions. Meanwhile, child hospitalizations are up 133%. Cassandra Castillo's 6-month-old son Francisco is one of almost 4.5 million kids who've tested positive for the virus. He's been taken to the hospital 3 times.
My biggest concern is him being able to breathe. He sounds like he's struggling to breathe, and it's terrible to hear that.
Amid a push to get kids back into the classroom, students in Chicago will return to campus Wednesday after teachers reached a new agreement with the district over safety concerns. In Los Angeles, after a rush to get more than 500,000 students tested, the nation's second largest district is back today, just as COVID cases here surge to record levels.
I have mixed emotions about it, really.
This just the latest reopening as the nation tries to ride out a tidal wave of infections.
The White House is trying to expand testing, saying all Americans with health care insurance will soon be covered for those at-home tests. Starting January 15th, Americans will be able to be reimbursed from their private health care insurance for up to 8 tests a month. They believe that'll expand testing nationwide. Savannah and Joe, back to you.
Miguel, thanks so much.
Dr. Osterrani joins me now. He's an emergency medicine physician in San Antonio, Texas. Doctor, good morning. So we're talking about these potential Omicron-specific boosters, which if they were to happen, as we just heard from Miguel, would for many people be a fourth shot. So first of all, do you think an Omicron-specific booster is necessary? But also, do you anticipate these vaccines ever getting to a place where we essentially know what to expect? Like, for example, we know the flu shot comes once a year. Is that going to be a possibility here?
Well, good morning, and thanks for having me. I think from a scientific point of view, this is kind of good news in terms of knowing that our vaccines can be updated quickly. We have to go back to see what the goals of our vaccines were initially, and that was to prevent deaths and severe disease that led to hospitalizations. If you look at the data from both abroad and here in the United States, getting vaccinated and a booster, so 3 shots total, protects you from that. It keeps you out of the hospital, it prevents death in most cases, and it keeps you safe. So I don't think we're going to be needing this specific variant unless, or this specific version of this vaccine unless something massive changes. I think long-term, we're working on a vaccine that's essentially going to be working against all COVID variants. And I think that'll be the long-term play. That might be a yearly or every 2-year vaccine, and hopefully we'll get there at some point in 2022.
Now let's talk about testing and the importance of it, especially as we're in the middle of this surge. The Biden administration is now telling insurance providers to cover the cost of 8 at-home COVID tests per family member every month. How much can that help us here, especially as these at-home tests are either hard to come by or super expensive?
Well, look, in medicine, you have to diagnose the problem before you can treat it. And we have been underdiagnosing COVID in our communities since this pandemic began. So this is a strong piece of the testing puzzle that we face in the United States, but it's not going to save all or solve all our problems, right? We have millions of people who don't have health insurance, so this is not going to help them. We also, in a lot of circumstances, will have to pay out of pocket and get reimbursed for it. So if you have a family of 4 or 5, these tests can get pricey quick, and that's going to be a barrier to getting those tests. We need to move towards more of a model of what Europe has been doing for a year essentially now, which is you walk into any pharmacy, no questions asked, you can walk out with a test, you don't have to pay anything for it. I saw DC, you can pick up tests in libraries. And so that's the model we need to move to, and I hope we get some federal leadership on that.
Now, doctor, as we've been talking about throughout this show, we broke this record. More than 1.3 million people tested positive for COVID over the past 24 hours. That's the most we've seen. Did you think we would be in this situation nearly 2 years into the pandemic? Where do you think we go from here? How can we get out of this?
Yeah, unfortunately, I did not think we would be here. You know, we're talking about flattening the curve again, and that's what we were talking about in March and April of 2020. I'm tired of using that term. Essentially, what happened is we got a variant that was much more transmissible, but we did very little to change our behavior towards it, and that's leading to the record number of cases. We also have an extremely low vaccination rate. Essentially, we've plateaued when it comes to fully vaccinated individuals over the past couple of weeks. Our childhood vaccination rates are pretty abysmal. And so that combination is leading to some people still getting severe infections and getting hospitalized. We just have to double down on getting people vaccinated, whether that's through mandates or other measures, and masking up and just kind of weathering the storm through January and February.
All right, Dr. Osterrani, thank you so much for joining us.
Chicago teachers are returning to the classroom today after 4 days of cancellation sparked by the city's COVID policies. The Chicago Teachers Union voted to end their work action after finalizing a proposed agreement for employees. Teachers will vote on the new COVID policies this week, with students returning to the classroom on Wednesday. More than 340,000 students missed 5 days of class because of the standoff between the Teachers Union and Mayor Lori Lightfoot. NBC News correspondent Megan Fitzgerald joins us now from Chicago with more. Megan, good morning to you. So what led to the end of this standoff, and what are some of the new protocols that union members are going to be voting on?
Joe, good morning. You know, this has been 2 weeks, nearly 2 weeks now in the making, a lot of back and forth. And, you know, it's certainly a bit surprising that they've reached an agreement because you'll remember just yesterday we heard from the president of the teachers union who said that the mayor was being ridiculously stubborn and relentlessly stupid, he said, and that they were hitting a dead end. And so just last night, they finally reached a deal. What this has always been about for the teachers union is safety. So they were calling for, and what they have received is better quality masks that will be available inside schools. So we're talking about KN95 masks here. Also a metric system to be able to quantify how much virus is inside a school at any given time so that they can then trigger online learning. It sounds like they've reached an agreement there as well. And then they also wanted more testing inside schools and more rapid testing readily available. And that is something that they got a commitment for on the side of the city and the Chicago Public Schools. I want you to listen to what the vice president of the teachers union had to say.
I would say testing is still a big deal. I would say we need contact tracing at our school level, and then we need a metric. This particular variant is contagious, very contagious, and we're going to have to know when it is safe to be inside the school community and safe not to be in the school community. After 2 days of school, we have countless classrooms that are shutting down because the vast majority of the people inside of the classroom have been close contacts to those who came back with COVID.
So that is exactly what teachers have been saying since the very beginning of this. And as of this morning, it sounds like they are pretty satisfied with the agreement that they've come to.
So, Megan, on the other side of this is the mayor, Lori Lightfoot. How is she responding to the return of teachers?
So, you know, from the very beginning, Joe, as you know, the mayor has always said that she wants students and teachers back in class. And as of tomorrow, that's what's expected. So the mayor seemingly pleased that she has met the demands of what the teachers union wanted. The teachers union has sort of come to the table for what the mayor's side wants. And so finally, they've reached an agreement, and she's getting what she wants in terms of students back in the classroom, something the teachers union said they want too, but safely. I want you to listen to what the mayor had to say.
We know that this has been very difficult for students and families. Our goal throughout this entire process was to both get our students back to in-person learning as quickly as possible and prevent work disruptions for the rest of the school year. Switching completely back to remote learning again without a public health reason to do so would have created and amplified the social, emotional, and economic turmoil that far too many of our families are facing.
And so teachers will report to the classroom today, and starting tomorrow, students are expected to finally return to class, Joe.
Megan Fitzgerald in frigid Chicago giving us a little preview of our very next story.
That's right. That's those bitter cold temperatures Americans are dealing with, including Megan, across the Northeast and Midwest this morning. The blast of Arctic air is sending temperatures plunging to dangerously low levels just as people are getting ready to head out the door for the day. NBC News correspondent Stephanie Gosk joins us now from White Plains, New York. Stephanie, we have had you out there for us a couple of times, and I always say thank you for being there, and I'm sorry. Good morning. It's good to see you. At least you look dressed warm.
I am dressed warm, and I'm about as warm as you can get, which is, in these temperatures, not very warm. It's the kind of cold that freezes your iPhone and has news correspondents showing up in ridiculous ski mittens on camera. There are places in the Midwest and the Northeast today that are reaching temperatures they haven't seen in years. Here in White Plains, New York, it's about 15 degrees, but it feels like zero. That's 0 degrees, not even a single degree.
This morning, millions are waking up to more frigid winter weather.
It's super cold outside.
A dangerous Arctic blast slamming the Midwest and the Northeast.
And here's how cold it's going to get. Feels like forecast means frostbite in 30 minutes or less.
With temperatures and wind chills plunging into the single digits and well below zero. Folks across the country now bundling up as they brace for another round of bitter cold. Across the Great Lakes, the brutal cold snap is bringing heavy snow and high winds. In Parrish, New York, cars and streets were buried in more than a foot of lake-effect snow. Snow blanketed roads and highways, creating dangerous driving conditions. This jackknife tractor-trailer shut down part of a busy interstate. The chilly forecast, the reason why classes are canceled in the Syracuse City School District this morning. Meantime, in Duluth, Minnesota, fire crews battled a large structure fire for nearly 7 hours amid negative 35-degree wind chills.
It's dangerous for us, just like anybody else being outside.
The deep freeze extending all the way to New England. In Boston, all public schools will also be closed today. For the first time in 7 years, the extreme cold is keeping kids out of the classroom.
We want to make sure there's no risk of students being either out in the cold on the way to school or having issues in school because of the ventilation that's needed with the pandemic.
The good news is these temperatures are going to break in the next 24 hours, rising into the balmy upper 30s. It's basically bikini weather, Savannah.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait for that. All right, Stephanie Gosk. Thank you so much. Love the mittens. All right, now let's get a check at your morning news now. Weather.
Meteorologist Bill Cairns joins us with the latest on these record cold temps. Bill, good morning.
Well, good morning. And you guys are going to join me. We're going to have a little anchor participation here in a second.
Lovely.
So first, though, yes, you guys have been paying attention. I have faith that you guys are going to do really well today. So let's first go and just show you the wind chill temperatures right now across the board, because obviously that's the story of the day from the Midwest to the Great Lakes. I did find one spot in Canada, Sudbury, has a wind chill of negative 40. That's the coldest I've seen pretty much anywhere on the map. In the lower 48, you have to go to Caribou, Maine, who's at negative 33. So, all right, I have faith. This is going to be simple. You guys are going to be great. So, Savannah and Joe, who's colder today, Minneapolis or New York?
I'm going to go with Minneapolis.
Oh, I think I'm going to go with New York because this is the trick. Yes.
It is. Wow. New York is colder today. New York is only going to be 20 degrees. In Minneapolis, it's going to warm up to 31. So, all right, this is getting interesting now. Here's our second choice. Who is colder today, Chicago or Washington, D.C.?
I'm going to go D.C.
I guess I'll agree with D.C. since we're on an East Coast thing here.
All right, we'll see if we can get Joe on the board. It's a close call, but you were there. 29 in D.C. today. You haven't had many days below freezing. And our final one, let's see if Savannah can go 3 for 3. Who's colder today? A little twist. Let's go all the way to Anchorage or Boston.
I kind of have a feeling this is going to be their tide.
Oh, wow. I'll just go Anchorage.
Wow, okay.
I'll just go Anchorage.
Oh
my goodness.
And it is Boston by a lot. Actually, Alaska was brutally cold in December when the rest of the country was warm. And when the lower 48 is kind of really cold, usually Alaska's warmer, and that's the case right now. So Savannah you went for the tie. That was impressive.
Well, you've done that to us before, where then you're like, ha, ha, ha.
I have, and I don't like to be predictable, so I didn't want to give you the tie at the
Really,
end
what
again.
I was doing there was I wasn't thinking about the temperatures. I was thinking about Bill's logic.
Yes, how Bill is going to mess with my head today. The only other weather we need to talk about is in the Pacific Northwest. Unfortunately, we're going to get a lot more in the way of heavy rain. We've had a lot of snow, so the avalanche threat's going to get pretty high too. But it does look like we're going to get a big rainstorm over the next couple of days. So that's really only the travel trouble weather. In the Northeast, it's cold, but there's really not much snow or ice out there today, guys. So I think you guys both did very well. You both get what scale are we going with? Like complete, incomplete? Are we doing like the easy college course grading?
No, well...
I mean, I only got one right, so I failed no matter what your scale is.
He got a 33%, 33.33, 66% for me.
So room for improvement for Joe, and Savannah gets, did well. Study a little more.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, that was fun. Thanks for getting our brains working, Bill. All right. And coming up on Morning News Now, the ongoing battle for Venezuela.
A once popular opposition leader, internationally seen as the successor to socialist President Nicolas Maduro, is now stumbling in popularity. We're going to bring you the latest from the embattled nation next.
Welcome back. In Venezuela, the fight over the presidency and the opposition's efforts to restore democracy are reaching a critical point.
Opposition leader Juan Guaido has been losing support locally, and that's leaving many to wonder when or if Nicolas Maduro's dictatorship will ever end. NBC News Now correspondent Isa Gutierrez takes a closer look.
In Venezuela, two men still call themselves the president. As they have for the last 3 years, but hope that the opposition party's Juan Guaido would overthrow the Socialist Party's Nicolás Maduro has dwindled dramatically. Concerns rising that the lack of a unified opposition is allowing the totalitarian leader to continue his power grab. In January of 2019, Guaido, the leader of the National Assembly at the time, declared himself Venezuela's acting president, according to the country's constitution, after the ruling Socialist Party's Nicolás Maduro won in presidential elections many say were rigged.
These were elections that were essentially run by the government.
At the time, nearly 60 countries, including the U.S., recognized Guaido and not Maduro as the rightful president.
These are just the first step on Venezuela's road to liberty.
But in the last couple of years, support for Guaido from inside and outside the country has waned.
There is widespread discontent with Juan Guaido. And, the opposition has been fragmented enormously. One reason is that they haven't been able to topple Maduro. More importantly, Maduro just held elections for governors and municipalities, and he won.
Buen triunfo. Buena victoria.
A cause for concern among the opposition after Guaido has heavily relied on international support for years.
Para nosotros es fundamental esta alianza de defensores de la democracia.
But some fear Guaido's reliance on that international backing has given Maduro the ammunition to tighten his grip in the country.
El Guaidó, el títere este que pusieron al frente del grupo este de la Asamblea Nacional, es un títere.
Yo diría que el primer semestre del año 2019 fue una época de gran ilusión para los venezolanos.
José Ignacio Hernández designed much of Juan Guaido's interim government structure and legal strategies. He has since quit his role with the opposition and is a university public policy professor.
Pero la comunidad internacional entendió que lamentablemente el cambio en Venezuela no era tan rápido, tan expedito como se quería, que el problema era más complejo, que había que avanzar con cautela. Y yo diría que el principal error, la principal debilidad de la oposición que la vimos en estos días es en los desencuentros internos y lo que yo he llamado el valle de la indecisión.
Venezuela is not going to get rid of Maduro by relying on external forces. The solution to Venezuela is should be, right, internal.
Meanwhile, a humanitarian crisis perpetuated by the Maduro regime rages on with no end in sight. 3 in 4 Venezuelans now living in extreme poverty. And violence, insecurity, a lack of food, medicine, and other shortages pushing over 6 million people to leave.
At the end of the day, the losers here continue to be the Venezuelan people.
That's the sad reality of it. The losers are the Venezuelans who have stayed at home and are weathering this crisis.
Isa Gutierrez, NBC News.
Let's take a look at what else is making news around the world this morning.
Claudio Lavanga is with us again from Rome. Hi, Claudio. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Well, David Sassoli, the president of the European Parliament, has passed away today at the age of 65. Sassoli died at an Italian hospital where he was being treated for what has been described as serious complications to a dysfunction of the immune system. Sassoli rose to fame here in Italy as a journalist before he went into politics. And Boris Johnson was accused once again of breaking his own COVID-19 restrictions in May last year when he held a garden party at the Prime Minister's official residence during a lockdown. In an email sent by his private secretary and now leaked to the media, 100 members of his staff were invited to bring their own booze, while the rest of the country was told to stay indoors and keep social distancing. And the remains of an ancient and apparently wealthy Roman town have been found under a field in the UK. Among other things, archaeologists discovered a 32 feet wide road, which is a lot wider than the road in modern Rome that I'm standing on now. A lot of jewelry, a lot of coins, and even minerals that the archaeologists believe were used to make cosmetics and makeup, guys.
Claudio telling us about all kinds of old, interesting discoveries today.
Things unearthed. Very cool, though. Claudio, thanks so much.
You can count on me.
Right, we do.
We know we can, yeah.
Coming up, raising crucial awareness to human trafficking through giving back to those who need it most.
The duo that's helping survivors start the businesses of their dreams. That's up next.
Doctors in Maryland made history this week after successfully transplanting a genetically modified pig heart into a 57-year-old human patient. David Bennett was diagnosed with an end-stage heart disease and was not eligible for a traditional heart transplant. That's when surgeons stepped in to offer the historic, potentially life-saving surgery. Now, this had never been done before. The pig used had been genetically modified to knock out several genes that would have made Bennett's body reject the heart. Doctors are hoping the breakthrough will bring them one step closer to solving the organ shortage crisis. Bennett, still being monitored, so far is doing well, and his body has not rejected the heart. Good to see him up and doing well there. Science is an amazing thing.
It's just incredible. The fact that it could have rejected it, but they knew how to make it not.
Yeah, and with a pig's heart.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very
cool. Keep
cool.
following that kind of development there.
Absolutely, and we're so happy for him. All right, now today is National Human Trafficking Awareness Day. The International Labor Organization estimates there are 40.3 million victims of human trafficking around the world. That's just heartbreaking, and it includes hundreds of thousands in the U.S. Chances are it's actually happening in your neighborhood.
We're about to hear, though, from one business owner who decided to make a difference in her community. Cafe owner Kim Taylor decided to change the lives of 6 survivors of trafficking by buying all of them business licenses. Kim joins us now, along with Tiffany McGee, the CEO and founder of Survivor Ventures. That's the local not-for-profit that Kim partnered with to make these donations. So Kim, Tiffany, good morning to both of you. We're thrilled to have both of you on. Kim, I want to start with you. Tell us, what did inspire you to make such a generous donation to these 6 women?
Well, you know, we learned of them through a partnership that we have. And so with Smoothie Stock being a woman-owned business, we wanted to partner with them and we help them empower our women economically to just, just to be there for them. I mean, we just wanted to partner with them so that they can do what they would love to do and to empower their own selves, empower their own lives.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying there is so important, that word empower. And Tiffany, that's what I want to ask you about with Survivor Ventures, this focus on economic empowerment for survivors of trafficking. Why is that piece of support for us survivors so important in particular?
Right. So one of the reasons why we founded Survivor Ventures in the first place is because domestically speaking, trafficking survivors are often arrested for their role as victim in the trafficking situation. Upon rescue or escape, or more frequently released from jail, survivors are in dire need of essential supportive services for themselves and their children. They want to work and they want to provide for their children, but unfortunately, many states lack effective criminal record relief legislation for confirmed trafficking victims. As service providers, we do our best to help survivors find employment, but due to survivors' criminal records, they can only get minimum wage jobs, and that rarely provides 40 hours a week with no ability to make ends meet. So when their shelter stays and follow-on assistance end, they often cycle back to homelessness and other positions of vulnerability that led to the trafficking in the first place, which results in really high rates of re-trafficking. So to disrupt this cycle, we partner with small business owners like Kim and the Smoothie Stop in order to create gainful employment opportunities. We have a program called Survivors to Entrepreneurs that provides wage reimbursements for startups.
Kim, how has this changed your perspective when it comes to trafficking, and what is your relationship with these 6 individuals you've helped out?
You know, when they came to our location in Hampton, I had a chance to actually talk to the women, to hear their experiences and to hear the things that they've gone through. And so just hearing their stories, you know, has impacted me, because to have gone through those things and still press forward to make a better future for themselves and open up businesses. I mean, I can't even describe the feeling that it made me want to work harder as a business owner myself.
Oh, my goodness, that's incredible to hear. Now, Tiffany, human trafficking is often really misunderstood, especially when it comes to understanding that this could be happening in our own backyard. Misconceptions, even something like confusing it with the international slave trade, as it often is actually, can stereotype these survivors. How can raising awareness help combat this and help get these people who have been through this into jobs and on the track that they want to be on?
Yeah, that's all exactly right. There's been so many human trafficking awareness campaigns, but a lot of people still don't understand what it really looks like. We wear blue on National Human Trafficking Awareness Day, but we continue to have some of those serious misconceptions that you just mentioned, that it only happens to foreign nationals, it always involves handcuffs or bondage. But human trafficking, by definition, involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain some type of labor or commercial sex act. And the majority of cases in the U.S. involve the fraud and coercion side of it. So if we start to understand that it's actually vulnerability that grows trafficking, things like poverty, low self-esteem, unstable housing, addiction, isolation, loneliness, just one of those things can be exploited by a trafficker. So when we're talking about awareness, we should start at home, at social media platforms, in schools, and help people in those spaces understand their vulnerabilities and how to protect against predators eager to exploit.
Tiffany and Kim, thank you for everything you're doing to raise awareness and to help out, and we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us this morning. And we do want to tell our viewers, if you think you or someone you know may be a potential victim of human trafficking, you can call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373-7888, or you can text Be Free, that's 233-733.
Now, we've got much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now. We'll take you to Wall Street for the one-year anniversary of that infamous GameStop short squeeze. What's changed for 2022 as even more armchair investors look to go to the moon?
Plus, a malfunctioning space heater was behind the fire that killed at least 17 people in the Bronx over the weekend. We've got some tips on how you can keep your house warm and safe this winter. That's next.
Welcome back. Fire safety and prevention has been in the spotlight following the recent devastating fires over the past week in Philadelphia and in New York City. NBC News senior consumer investigative correspondent Vicki Nguyen shares some important tips on how to stay safe in the event of an emergency.
Yeah, the thought alone is terrifying, being stuck in a fire, sometimes hundreds of feet above the ground. We know every second counts, but what are you supposed to do? Well, with the help of the New York Fire Department, we're about to show you the things that you should know and practice with your family to get out alive. The Bronx apartment fire, a tragic example of the deadly power of residential fires. The FDNY says a faulty door to the burning apartment stayed open, allowing smoke to spread.
The door, when it was fully open, stayed fully opened because it malfunctioned.
Investigators also looking at risks posed by an everyday appliance used by millions of Americans in the winter months.
We're certain that the fire started with a faulty electrical heater, portable heater.
A flawed space heater sparking a blaze. It's more common than you might think. The latest data show 81% of home heating fire deaths involve stationary or portable space heaters. So if you're using one, set it up safely.
And as the name suggests, give the heater some space. Keep it at least 3 feet away from anything flammable like this dog bed, and always plug it directly into the wall. Never a power strip.
Keep the space heater away from curtains, bedding, and upholstered furniture. Turn it off when you go to bed or leave the room. And only use space heaters with a tag from an approved testing lab. Also beware that electrical malfunctions, cooking, and unattended open flames are leading causes of residential fires too. So have a plan. At the New York City Fire Training Academy, the FDNY took us inside one of their drills.
Tell us what we're going to see today.
We prepared a scenario so we can demonstrate how fire and smoke travel throughout a high-rise building in the event of a fire.
The FDNY triggers this controlled fire to show you just how quickly flames can spread.
Fire will begin to consume the room, and if the door is not closed, we'll exit into the hallway with smoke and affect the rest of the building.
This is key. With the door to that room wide open, the flames intensify, shooting towards the open doorway. But watch what happens when the door is shut. A big difference. The flames are contained inside the room.
How come having the door closed makes such a big difference?
If that door is closed to confine the fire to that area, the rest of the building will remain habitable.
But in a high-rise fire, should you stay or should you try to evacuate? Fire experts say if the fire is in your room, exit, stay low, and go, using the stairs, not the elevator.
You want to stay low below the smoke because the smoke will rise.
But if the fire is not near you or in your room, grab a wet towel and cover the bottom of the door to block smoke. Then wait for instructions. It may sound counterintuitive, but fire experts say many high-rise buildings are equipped with building materials that are designed to limit the spread of fire. So if you're not close to the source of the flames, you may be safer waiting for the fire department.
We've had fires in these type of non-combustible high-rise multiple dwellings where the contents of the fire apartment was completely incinerated, but yet if you went to the adjoining apartment on either side, it didn't even look like there was a fire in the building.
Know the building you're in, keep the doors closed in case of fire, and remember, sometimes it's best to stay put. Tips to help you get out alive. And it is important to note, FDNY says there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. Every home, building code is different. So it's very important to check those smoke detectors once a month to make sure they are working. Practice the fire drill with your family on how to safely get out of your home, and identify a meeting point for everyone outside so they can get there safely. Back to you.
Such great tips that could save lives. Vicki, thank you so much.
We might be less than 2 weeks into the new year, but the federal government says now is the time to start thinking about tax season. The IRS is warning of a potentially frustrating season ahead with challenges posed by the pandemic on top of years of budget cuts. Here's NBC's Tom Costello.
Good day. The bottom line for the IRS, they are understaffed, they are under budgeted right now, and they are way behind. The pandemic and staffing shortages have certainly contributed to that. Tax law changes are another reason. That means it could be a very long wait for you if you file your taxes, especially using the paper forms. The April 18th deadline is coming up fast.
The April 18th tax filing deadline may be more than 3 months away, but the Treasury Department is warning Americans now that the upcoming tax filing season could be frustrating. Agency officials say they're facing enormous challenges, among them the pandemic.
There's a lot more work for the IRS to do with a lot fewer staff members doing it.
While the U.S. population has grown over the past half century, IRS staffing is now at the same level it was more than 50 years ago, with fewer than 15,000 workers available last year to handle more than 240 million calls. To make matters worse, the agency is using outdated technology and has also seen its budget slashed nearly 20% over the past 10 years. The best way to avoid refund delays this year, file early electronically and ditch the paper forms. As of last month, the agency still had a backlog of millions of unprocessed returns from the year before. For those who made less than $73,000, the IRS offers free file. And companies like H&R Block and TurboTax offer their own software for e-filing, too.
E-filing with direct deposit, that's the quickest way to get your tax refund.
The IRS says people who file electronically with direct deposit should not experience issues and should receive their refund within 21 days.
So it's important to file electronically to make sure that everything is accurate and that it's filed electronically so that you can possibly get your refund sooner rather than later.
Yeah, the average size of the refund, $2,800, money that can come in handy, of course, if you're paying off the holiday debt. But experts say the key here is organization and prep. It may be 3 months away, but the sooner you start organizing, the better. Back to you.
All right, good heads up, Tom. Thanks so much.
Now, 1 year ago, a group of small-scale investors began buying up stocks of GameStop, the video game retailer. The surge drove share prices to dizzying heights and cost the firms who had bet against that company millions.
It would become one of the most infamous examples of a short squeeze while ushering in a new trend of so-called meme stocks and retail investing.
CNBC reporter Leslie Picker joins us now. Hi, Leslie. Good morning. So people may remember this had to do with Reddit. This had to do with a user named Roaring Kitty. And we were all like, what is happening? So walk us through how exactly the spike in GameStop stock happened and what did make it so unique.
Hey, good morning, Savannah. Yes, Roaring Kitty, of course, was the famous name, at least the screen name of one of the key individual investors who were helping to kind of create this, what we call a bullish or a supportive case to drive GameStop shares higher. What happened was really remarkable and something you don't see every day in the markets. It's that you've got this collective group of individual investors on social media that were champions of GameStop. It had kind of been left for dead by the professional investors out there. A lot of them were taking the opposite side of the trade, betting against the company, given that it was a video game retailer. It was closing stores. No one was really going into malls anymore because we were in the heart of COVID. And then you had this kind of group of maverick investors who said, no, I see value here and here's why. They helped propel this stock higher, but then there were these technical aspects to the way that this stock was positioned in the market that helped really catapult it to the stratosphere. And that has to do with what you mentioned, a short squeeze, which is when people are betting against a company, and then when it goes higher, they have to buy at higher and higher levels in order to cover their positions.
So folks may remember Melvin Capital became one of the main targets of this squeeze. Quickly tell us, what effect did it have on that firm and other big short sellers?
Yeah, that's right. Melvin was famously short GameStop. They disclosed it in a filing based on certain options that they held that were betting against the company. They never really recovered from the losses that they suffered as a result of that position and several others in January. They posted, according to sources familiar with the matter, negative 39% returns in 2021. That was just revealed last week. That's compared to a market that is dramatically higher in 2021. Definitely not something you want to see, but same is true with a lot of other hedge funds who were short GameStop. They just weren't really able to recover throughout the year.
And it fascinated us all as we watched it unfold. Look, here we are a year later talking about it. All right, Leslie, thank you so much for joining us. And now we'll stay on your money with our CNBC Money Minute, the biggest financial headlines of the day and why they matter to you.
Frank Holland is with us again. Frank, good morning.
Hey, good morning again, guys. We're going to start with some big financial news. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon says the U.S. is headed for its best growth in decades in 2022. Speaking to CNBC yesterday, Dimon said that was partly due to the balance sheets of American consumers, which he says have never been in better shape. However, Dimon says the financial markets, they could experience a bit of turbulence as the Fed Reserve tightens monetary policy and starts to raise interest rates. Dimon believes the Fed could hike rates 4 times or maybe even more this year. Apple says App Store developers have earned more than $260 billion since the store launched back in 2008. It's estimated developers made roughly $60 billion just last year. While the App Store continues to be a big moneymaker, many developers, they're a bit unhappy with what they see as restrictive policies, including the 30% cut that Apple takes in many transactions. And Apple's also reportedly in some very serious talks to carry Major League Baseball games next season. Apple has long been looked at as a landing spot for TV sports rights, and according to the New York Post, Major League Baseball has been trying to sell its Monday and Wednesday night games that ESPN recently gave up. And if a deal happens, Apple would expected to make those games available through its Apple TV Plus streaming service. Back over to you.
I think we're going to see more and more of that in the coming years. All right, Frank, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, tributes continue to pour into legendary comedian and America's dad, Bob Saget.
Yeah, one of Saget's closest friends spoke with the team at the Today Show earlier this morning. We'll bring you part of that interview next.
This morning, tributes and loving memories of Bob Saget are still pouring in following the sudden death of the 65-year-old comedian and actor. One of his closest friends, comedian Mike Young, joined the Today Show this morning, and here's some of what he had to say.
Bob was, obviously he was incredible. He was just beyond funny, but he was sweet because he always wanted to take care of everybody. Like Bob was just that guy, like, give me your phone. And all of a sudden my hotel is connected to my credit card and I never pay for a hotel again. And all my miles are correct. And he just took care of you. And, Bob, the last text, we were just joking back and forth because we were getting ready to do some shows together. And I said, Bobby, you got to put me on the poster. You put my face on the poster at this point. We're together over 10 years. And he just made this hilarious picture. And I didn't even bring the picture, but it was me, a giant picture of me and Bob, a tiny Bob in the corner for the shows coming up. And we just had a great laugh.
Saget was beloved for his character on Full House, also admired for his sometimes dark, irreverent sense of humor. This morning, we are learning more about the caring side of this iconic TV dad. Bob Saget left behind a rich and varied body of work, from raunchy adult stand-up sets to the adoring single father on Full House.
You girls are the greatest.
Those who knew him say the kindness he showed on screen was no act. Jimmy Kimmel emotionally paid tribute overnight.
A word that came up a lot was the sweetest. And Bob was the sweetest. He was the sweetest man.
Saget was found dead Sunday inside an Orlando hotel room. According to the police incident report, his family could not get a hold of him, so hotel security went to check on him and found Saget on the bed with no pulse.
We have an unresponsive guest in a room.
Authorities say they found no signs of foul play or drug use. The medical examiner has performed an autopsy to determine how the 65-year-old died, but the results are months away. Saget's widow says, Bob was my absolute everything. I am so completely shattered and in disbelief. John Stamos posted a new statement on behalf of the Full House cast. 35 years ago, we came together as a TV family, but we became a real family. And now, we grieve as a family. Stamos comforted Saget's widow, Kelly, on Monday. Andrea Barber posted this clip of Bob during rehearsal for the sequel, Fuller House.
And I'm so proud to have been able to raise these girls and know them since they were like my girls.
Saget was on a stand-up comedy tour when he died, and just hours earlier posted on Instagram, I guess I'm finding my new voice and loving every moment of it. In one of his last interviews, he explained why he loved comedy so much.
You can make people laugh, and it might not be your cup of tea, but you're doing something great for people. Laughing, that's why I'm doing it.
Saget is also being remembered for his 30 years of work in the fight against scleroderma. That's the disease that took the life of his sister back in 1994. He proudly served on the board of the Scleroderma Research Foundation, writing last year, "It's one of my life's missions to help find a cure for this disease." Lots of tributes just pouring in, also from the cast of How I Met Your Mother, because he was the narrator of that for 9 years. A lot of people don't realize.
I didn't realize that actually until these tributes, but how sweet was that clip posted of him talking about the girls from Full House?
Yeah.
It just shows really what he was like.
Everyone just keeps saying, nice, beloved. That's just the way he was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.